We're talking about buoys. All right. My name is Tanner. Welcome to the knowledge of. Today we are talking about buoys. Yes, the little floaty things in the middle of the ocean. Look, it's what I got. Okay? Let's get into it. I also want to mention that today we are putting together Lego Harry Potter set 76412, the Hufflepuff house banner. So, what is a buoy? A buoy is a device that floats in open water, usually signifying some sort of marker, but they can have other purposes, such as scientific research. Now, no one knows exactly when buoys were first used or invented, but it is commonly believed that they were used very early on in the days of water travel. The earliest recorded use of a buoy that we have today is from La Compasso de Navigare from the year 1295. La Compasso de Navigare was a seaman's manual that specified sea roads and routes around the Iberian Peninsula. The guide mentioned the use of buoys in Spain's Guadalquivir River. Early versions of a buoy are speculated to be made of pieces of driftwood anchored down by a large stone or some other heavy object. Eventually, in Germany and the Netherlands, buoys were made from empty wooden crates that were tied down with a stone. These models of buoys were eventually adopted by England. At first, these buoys were used only as markers during the daytime because that's really only when they were useful. Coming around in the mid 1800s, people began experimenting on how to improve the buoys, trying to make them useful at night. The bell buoy was created. A bell would be placed on the buoy and would chime with the motion of the waves, helping indicate their location on the waters at night. After these bell buoys, the whistle buoy was invented by John Courtney. The buoy was open at the bottom with a hollow tube in the inside, which would cause a whistle to blow, indicating its location. When you get to the late 1800s and early 1900s, the first illuminated buoys were invented. They used compressed gas and would be lit at night to mark their positions, allowing sailors to see them in the dark. During the daytime, they had a valve called a sun valve that would be turned off during the day to save gas. Jumping to modern day, most buoys have lights placed on them, allowing their location to be illuminating. Now, obviously, we know these lights are electronically powered, whether they're solar powered or battery powered, whichever is being used. Kind of getting into the specifications of a modern buoy, there are several different types of buoys. Now, from driveaboatcanada.ca, some include lateral buoys, port hand buoys, starboard hand buoys, bifurcation buoys, fairway buoys, isolated danger buoys, cardinal buoys, special buoys, anchorage buoys,
2 hours later.
mooring buoys, cautionary buoys, hazard buoys, keep out buoys, control buoys, information buoys, driving buoys, and swimming buoys. Now, with those, there are 5 common shapes a buoy may have: a can, which is a cylindrical, a non, which is conical, spherical, pillar, or spar. Monor buoys have many different uses, the main being navigational purposes, but the other main use I want to talk about is scientific research. One type of buoy that I did not mention earlier is called a drifting buoy. These buoys are part of the Data Buoy Cooperation Panel, the DBCP. They float on the surface of the water but have a hanging anchor tied to them. The anchor hangs about 15 meters below the surface. That way, the buoy drifts with the ocean currents rather than being moved by the wind. These buoys are often equipped with different sensors and instruments that read all sorts of different data. Some of the main data they collect is atmospheric pressure, atmospheric temperature, ocean surface temperature, wind speed, and ocean surface salinity. On DBCP's website, they have a map where you can actually view all of the locations of their drifting buoys. I have a link in the description below to that map. Okay, now getting into the exciting part of all of this, we get to talk about pirates. Who doesn't love pirates? So, with today's extra knowledge, we are going to talk about Captain William Kidd. So, let's get into it. During the golden age of piracy around the late 1600s and 1700s, Captain William Kidd sailed the seas. Now, information on his early life is kind of scattered and not fully consistent, but it is commonly believed that early on he was part of a pirate crew that turned against their captain, and Kidd was put into the position of captain. Kidd eventually settled in New York, where he was regarded as a privateer. A privateer is a private owner of an armed ship that would be hired by government officials. He was commonly hired by the Earl of Bellamont, who governed New York at the time, and would be hired to defend the interests of England. Kidd was hired to hunt pirates and their sailors that had committed crimes, but had many instances where he failed to complete his tasks. Eventually, Kidd captured a merchant ship that had many valuable goods on it. When this news got back to England, he was declared a pirate because at this point he had committed many acts of piracy. After a few years of piracy, it is believed Kidd had acquired a large amount of treasure and riches. Now, this is more of a legend by being spread in folklore tales and stories and has not been proven. But it is believed that Kidd had buried and hid his treasure throughout the upper New England area, mainly around New York and Nova Scotia. Now, where does this bring us and how does this relate to buoys? Well, one of the places that Kidd is said to have hid his treasure is in a saltwater lake in Damariscotta Island. I could be totally butchering that. I apologize. This island was believed to be bottomless, so it is theorized that Kidd had sunk some of his loot in the lake. He had guarded the entrance to the lake by using chains tied to rings on either side, but also had chains that were tied to, you guessed it, buoys. These buoys marked where the location of the chests were sunk. But in the end, Kidd was arrested and stood trial for his crimes of piracy and was executed in 1701 in England. And here's the finished product of the Lego set today, guys. This was actually a really fun one to put together. It's got an open form and then it's also got a closed form, as you can see right here. Now that is everything that I have for you today, guys. There is a lot more information on buoys out there, especially when you get into the specifications of modern buoys and all this different sorts of things. I probably only listed a portion of what's out there. But when it comes to the history, that's most of what I could find. You guys might know more. Please let me know down in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you have any other topics that you want me to explore, please let me know down in the comments. See you next time. Thanks for watching.